Alrighty, guys. Good morning to you all here. It is June 16th, 2025. Crazy to say we're already halfway through the month of June here. It's just flying by this summer already here. And we haven't even really entered summer yet. We're just getting ready to get to astronomical summer here. But regardless of that, we've got a very next dangerous couple of days here for severe weather. And we've got really all modes of severe weather on the table, with damaging winds and hail being the primary threats. There will be the threat for a couple of tornadoes. We're going to talk about today's forecast, tomorrow's forecast, and going into Wednesday and going into Thursday. We've got 4 days in a row here of what could be significant severe weather. Really, today, tomorrow, and Wednesday are going to be our worst 3 days, at least as it stands as of right now, where we've got enhanced risk zones for 2 days, slight risk zones that will more than likely get upgraded to enhanced risk zones, and I wouldn't even rule out on the table for maybe even a moderate risk going into tomorrow. We'll kind of look at that and talk about that as we go throughout the day today. I will let you guys know there will be full-blown live coverage later on this afternoon, going through tomorrow, going into Wednesday, and then going into Thursday, so we'll have full coverage for all area risk zones for the next 4 days here, as we've got a pretty significant stretch here for severe weather. The good news is some people won't see storms. Some people will start to dry out. Some people will have to wait to dry out. We're going to see a bit of a pattern change going into next week. We'll talk about that as well in this video. I want to break down what we've got ongoing right now here. We've got a huge upper level low up here connected to a shortwave trough. It's allowing for showers and thunderstorms across Minnesota this morning. This is not y'all's main risk as of right now today. We're going to have more storms along outflow boundaries that are going to develop later on this afternoon. We've got a double barrel enhanced risk today back into Nebraska, back up here into Minnesota. And then we've got an area of just rain showers and thunderstorms once again moving through the lower and middle Ohio Valley today. It's just going to cause some cloudiness, some storms out there, some flooding issues. I do want to mention we had very significant flooding yesterday back up into western Virginia and into southern Pennsylvania. We've actually got a couple of fatalities out of flash flooding yesterday. So I always tell you guys, when you see ponding on roadways or seeing roads start to get covered up, don't attempt to drive through them. Don't attempt to go through them, because you don't know how deep that water is. Sometimes the road can be washed underneath. Sometimes there can be sinkholes. You never know what to do. So don't turn around, don't drown. Just be smart about it if you see flooded roadways, because there's going to be issues with that, especially with these areas in the high plains that do see heavier rainfall amounts within an hour or two. So something to just be mindful of. Other than that, it's mostly quiet across the central and southern plains here as of now this morning. Quiet across the southeast. We'll have another day, an active day of thunderstorms across the area as well down there, but nothing too significant or too severe expected for you guys. I do want to go ahead and get into this forecast here and try and make this video as pretty quick as I can for you guys today. We'll go to the Storm Prediction Center outlook for today, where we do have a double barrel enhanced risk here. This is going to be a wind-driven and a hail-driven risk zone for today. A level 3 enhanced risk back up here into Minneapolis, Minnesota, getting into western Wisconsin, central and southern Minnesota, and another enhanced risk back here into northeastern far extreme Colorado and Nebraska. Both of these hail are going to be hail and wind driven. So the northern risk zone up here will be hail driven enhanced. The southern enhanced risk zone will be wind driven. We'll kind of talk about when those are going to time out and kind of get to that here in just a minute. We do have a level 2 slight risk outside of that there in the yellow, and a marginal risk in the green. Kind of looks like a heart shape here, but regardless of that, going to be a pretty significant day for severe weather today. The tornado risk for today as of right now is a 5% and a 2% tornado risk, meaning we could actually see a couple of tornadoes out there today, with that 5% being out there, that 2% also being out there today. Something we've really got to watch out for here is we could see, even possibly a strong tornado if some of these storms can, interact with the outflow boundary here. So we'll have to watch for that going through the afternoon hours this afternoon. 2% in the green, 5% in the maroon. Our wind threat is hatched. We do have a 30% hatched wind threat back down here into Nebraska, where we will see winds exceeding 75 miles per hour. Could even see a couple 80 to 90 mile an hour wind gusts back down here as well, getting closer to like north side of the Cook here, going into just central Nebraska in general through the evening hours and afternoon hours tonight, and even into the overnight hours. We could see that. Level 2 slight risk in the yellow, marginal risk there in the brown there shaded area. We could see a couple of storms out there produce some wind and some hail there. The hail threat for today also hatched. We've got a 30% hatched hail risk in that enhanced risk back up here into Minnesota. So that'll include Duluth, Minneapolis, you guys getting into Sioux Falls, and then that hatched region goes all the way through the slight risk back up into Billings. So a pretty big day for some large hail for any discrete cells or even clusters out there could be producing some significant hail. So a very big day today in terms of severe weather. You need to have alerts on your phones. You need to know where to go when you get alerts, and you need to, always just be weather aware and be watching out for the weather. As I always tell people, this is a time of the year where a lot of people let their guard down because it's summer and they think tornado season is over with, when in fact it's not. We've also got a pretty big, broad general thunderstorm risk, as I mentioned earlier. We'll see some general thunderstorms out there again today. Just be mindful of that. Don't get struck by lightning. Go inside if you hear thunder. Same stuff applies. So tomorrow looks to be interesting, and tomorrow has definitely uptrended pretty significantly in terms of severe weather. For my people that are in Kansas and getting into Kansas City and getting into Missouri, you guys have got to be weather aware tomorrow. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Tomorrow has been uptrending pretty significantly in terms of the wind threat. If we do see more of an uptrend, we could get a level 4 moderate risk zone introduced for wind. Not saying it's going to happen, but given some of the model runs we're seeing right now, it does look to be a pretty significant wind event across the state of Kansas tomorrow. Back down here in Oklahoma, we're going to have a little bit of a capping issue, so I don't expect too much of an issue in Oklahoma. We could see some storms fire off if that capping were to break, but we do have a small slight risk here at play for tomorrow for your Tuesday, and then a level 3 enhanced risk once again, Wichita, Kansas, getting into you guys here. Kansas City, you're also in that on the Kansas side, getting into Missouri here. Marginal risk outside of that as well, and then a marginal risk back here into the East Coast, into Virginia and West Virginia once again for training thunderstorms. Now, tomorrow, guys, we do have a 5% and a 2% tornado risk, so Wichita, you guys need to be mindful. Kansas City, you need to be mindful. Getting up into Des Moines, Iowa, 2% and 5% at play. A couple tornadoes expected. I honestly would not be shocked to see a 10% hatch tornado risk also introduced here, because we are going to have maxed out SRH values, which is storm relative helicity. Basically helps these storms spin. They're going to be maxed out values, so a couple of strong tornadoes could not be ruled out in tomorrow's setup. Wind threat is going to be the biggest threat here, where we do have a 30% wind threat here, 15% and 5% for winds up to 75, and then the hail threat is also hatched for a large hail over 2 to 2.5 inches plus in diameter. So we'll probably get a wind hatch, and we'll probably get a hail hatch or a tornado potentially hatched in the future here for tomorrow. We'll see what SPC does later on this afternoon when they update this, but a big day tomorrow across the state of Kansas and Missouri, and getting into Iowa, where we could see some pretty significant severe weather tomorrow afternoon into the overnight hours. We get to the day 3 forecast, and I've seen a lot of people wondering what's going to happen with our forecast going into day 3 here. And let me get this re-pulled up here for you guys. We'll go to the day 3 here. All right, as I was saying here, getting into the day 3 forecast here, some technical difficulties there for a minute. We've got a slight risk at play from Michigan and southern extreme Wisconsin, back down here through Illinois, Indiana, western Kentucky, getting all the way down here to Arkansas, into Oklahoma, getting up into Kansas. We'll have a level 2 slight risk at play and a marginal risk outside of that. I do expect a level 3 enhanced risk to be added at some point. It'll probably be up here towards Arkansas and getting into the lower Ohio Valley, getting into Missouri, and getting into Indiana and Illinois when we get a damaging wind threat upgrade for this. The models have definitely been signaling the threat for an uptrend in the wind threat for your Wednesday here. But regardless of that, a pretty big risk zone here on Wednesday. It's probably one of the bigger risk zones we've seen in quite some time, covering a lot of populations. Oklahoma City, Fort Still, Wichita Falls, Tulsa, all the way up through Springfield, St. Louis, getting into Springfield, Illinois, getting into Evansville, Indiana, getting into western Kentucky here, getting into Milwaukee, Chicago, Detroit. A lot of these areas under the gun for some significant potential severe weather going into Wednesday here. We'll know more of the probability types, but there will be more of a wind and a hail threat, and there will be some type of tornado component to this, probably a 2 or a 5%. We'll talk more about this as we get closer to Wednesday here, and then we get to the day 4 outlook, and we do have a level 2 slight risk at play for Thursday across North Carolina here, getting into Virginia, West Virginia, southeastern Pennsylvania, getting up into Maryland, Delaware here, getting up into New York. Just be mindful of this on Thursday, and like I said, we'll talk more about this as we get closer to this. All modes of severe weather will be possible, and then there will be more severe weather going into this region, again, going into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. SPC has not highlighted a risk zone yet, but they have mentioned there being severe weather again in this area, depending on what our low pressure system does going into the weekend. We'll kind of talk about that here in just a minute. Now, I briefly want to talk about what this is going to do today, kind of what we're going to see. Low pressure system's going to be moving across with a shortwave trough. Things are going to clear out. Sun will come out, or sun's not out already. It will come out, and we're going to see instability, unstable air come into the picture again here, allowing for storms to fire off. We're going to see storms initiate pretty early today. Could see storms initiating around 1 to 2 o'clock this afternoon, and some of these could be posing a tornado threat, a damaging wind threat, and a hail threat's going to be more concerning. But we do need to watch, especially down here in southern Minnesota, where our higher tornado parameters at. If we can get any discrete cells to fire off and organize, which it looks like the models are trying to do that, we could see a pretty, decent tornado risk set up this afternoon. It's just going to be all in plays of what happens with this, where storms initiate, and if we can get them to stay discrete or if they stay clustered or linear. So this will be between about 3, 4 o'clock this afternoon, moving through Minneapolis around 6 to 7 p.m., potentially a little before that. Just depends on the time of initiation. And then once that mode is done, this is not going to be the big show of the day. We're going to also have to watch down here in Nebraska. You see a couple storms firing off here. I do expect maybe an upgrade, or not an upgrade, but a little bit of an expansion east or west of our enhanced risk on the next update. We'll see what SPC does in the future with this, but we're going to have to watch Nebraska for more of a linear kind of clustering damaging wind event later on this afternoon through the overnight hours here. Could pose a 75 to 90 mile an hour wind threat. There'll be some hail embedded within that, maybe even a couple tornadoes late in the overnight hours, and then that'll be that for this event here. And then we go into tomorrow in showers and thunderstorms across the region again. Now, I do want to talk about tomorrow briefly here, because tomorrow has got a lot of questions. There's a lot of concern for tomorrow, as I was mentioning earlier. We'll see, a complex of storms move through tonight. And then we've got to watch here. It looks like to be an outflow boundary tries to set up overnight tonight. And we could actually see a couple of rounds of some severe storms back down here into northern and central Kansas through about 3, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. So we need to watch this to see if this trends, because this does have a pretty potent little storm moving through Hutchinson, moving through Topeka here, potentially Salina getting here lower through the overnight hours. So we're going to have to watch this, and then that'll, kind of transition its way southeast, kind of set up for tomorrow, where we'll have an outflow boundary. And then we're going to have just an explosion of supercells in and around the Topeka area going through about 6 to 7 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, A line of storm starts to develop, and this is where things get really, really interesting tomorrow. I do think a wind-driven moderate risk could be on the table if things do continue to kind of go this way. A pretty significant damaging wind event. This kind of looks like what we had in Texas a couple days ago with a derecho-like setup here, moving through the state of southern Nebraska and moving through Kansas. If you guys are in these areas, you need to be very, very much weather aware going into your Tuesday here. This could be a pretty decent and significant damaging wind threat, making its way all the way down here to Wichita, Kansas, getting into Kansas City, Missouri through the overnight hours here. So this will most likely be an overnight event for a lot of people. And then as this system progresses into Missouri, it will weaken along that low pressure system. And we'll talk more about tomorrow. Now, the biggest thing I want you guys to see the instability tomorrow and today are going to be quite interesting. We're going to have well enough 5,000 to 6,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE. And then we get to tomorrow and look at these instability values, guys. I'm telling you, you get instability values like this with dew points in the upper 70s, you're going to have trouble. You're definitely going to have trouble with what the weather is going to be potentially doing. And we're definitely going to have those instability values in place here. And another thing that's very much concerning tomorrow is I mentioned those SRH values, that significant tornado parameter potential. We have got, guys, looking at tomorrow here, we have got our tornado parameters pretty much maxed out tomorrow across central and southern Kansas. And any storms that are ongoing in this area here, I'll just pull up a sounding so you guys can see. You get a pretty, significant tornado sounding. You get a PDS sounding here. Your STP is maxed out. CAPE's maxed out. Low-level shear's maxed out. 80/74 hodograph here with a beautiful right curved hodograph. This is going to be a big problem tomorrow, and so we need to watch the threat for strong, potentially maybe even an intense tornado if some of these supercells can get going tomorrow before the main line comes in. And as that line comes in, those parameters will more than likely get eaten up because we'll have a Boeing line coming through. So a very, very big day tomorrow for my people in Kansas and in southern Nebraska. I would honestly think, you need to take both days seriously, but tomorrow looks to be the most concerning in terms of what we could be seeing. Here's one more thing I'll show you guys. This is not something I show too often, but when we have a situation like this, we need to show it. These are the helicity tracks. This basically gives us an idea of how much rotation is in the atmosphere. And if this doesn't show you the amount of potential tomorrow has, I don't know what else to tell you. This has definitely got big potential for tornado potential tomorrow, as well as the threat for damaging winds and large hail. So we're going to have to watch this very closely. We'll keep you guys updated on that as always. We'll talk more about it in depth in the live stream today as we're doing coverage and kind of talk about it and get you guys ready to go. So we'll keep you guys updated with that. The next thing I'll talk about here, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's really the same thing we've been talking about for 5 or 6 days now, going into our just overall general pattern here through the next couple of days, continuing to see shortwave troughing moving through or dip in the little jet stream here, allowing for severe weather across the Ohio Valley, the plains, the Midwest, going through about Wednesday, going into Thursday here. And then we get to the end of the weekend here, and I mentioned there's going to be a high pressure that's going to basically try to develop here and kind of steal the show, allowing for a big warming trend, allowing for just dry things, or dry temperatures, humid temperatures in a sense to happen. That didn't actually make sense. It'll be warm and it'll be humid is basically what I'm getting at. I could not get that out of my mouth today. We are going to have to watch going into the weekend here for another big shortwave trough ejection here, and then eventually just an actual main trough coming through. This is going to allow for the potential for more significant severe weather depending on where this low tracks. If this low if the low does move to the north further and quicker, we'll have lesser of a severe weather threat, but this will be more confined to the Dakotas and up towards northern Minnesota here. So we'll have to watch this going into Sunday and going into Monday, but it looks to be high pressure system is going to dominate over the southeast, the Ohio River Valley. We'll continue to see troughing, and then going into next week here, we'll continue to watch things, but it does look to be a pretty active pattern across the upper plains as ridging continues to develop. So a very nice week ahead going into next week here, and a very active week ahead going into this area here. So we'll keep you guys updated on that there. Once again, I'll show one more thing here, as always, the rainfall totals through the next 7 to 10 days here, just to kind of give you guys an idea of how much precip's going to fall. And really, in really honesty, this is where it's going to be at, is it's going to be in the upper Midwest, it's going to be in the high plains, it's going to be up toward the Great Lakes, the higher rainfall totals. We are going to have to watch for some potential tropical like system down here into the Gulf later on at the end of this week and going into early next week to bring some rainfall down to southern Texas. But other than that, the southeast will see some rainfall through the next couple of days. The Ohio Valley will, and the main shot is going to be up here into the upper Midwest and into the high plains. So I'll have more of a breakdown for you guys on stream today. I appreciate y'all for watching. As always, share this out, guys. Let people know what's going on. It's going to be a wild next couple of days for severe weather, possibly even dangerous days here. We'll keep you guys updated on the latest. Stay safe, be weather aware, and we'll see you on the next one.